should I go to for reliable information that's factual and definitely correct? I hear that the Swoosh is always pretty reliable and well-informed. Well, come on, Parker. Which YouTuber is always correct and never gets things wrong?
Well, I get all of my information from David Display's model Behaviour.
You serious?
There's a new Street Fighter on your windowsill. The weapon is peace. The word is chill.
Hello there, gang. You know what? I have recorded the intro to this video so many times, it is driving me slightly cuckoo bananas, but that's what comes with being a perfectionist. And then I realized, you know what? Stop trying to present. Just talk. So, what are we going to talk about? The list I made of the 30 most expensive and rarest action figures. Boy, did that put the cat amongst the pigeons, and rightfully so as well, because it's a very definitive type of title. The most. It's like, dude, I don't know. I'm just a schmuck on the internet. But a lot of folks who commented did definitely know more than I did. So for that, I thank you, because this has allowed me to put together a new list. And I thought, you know what? Rather than getting bogged down with semantics of, is this an action figure or a playset? Or is this that or blah, 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 blah. I'm going to take 40 nostalgic classics, be they action figures, comic books, video games, board games, you name it. If they are genre pieces that we grew up with or similar generations did, then I'm throwing them in this list. Is this the most definitive, absolute, this is the most expensive action figure? Well, maybe, actually. I shouldn't sell myself short. It's a very good video. But if you can think of any that I've missed, then please let me know. And also with the prices, I've got various prices from different websites and Google articles and stuff that I've looked up on eBay and what things were sold for. Is this absolutely definitive? Can I go out to Sotheby's and prove that they sold for this? Again, I probably could if I put more effort in. I shouldn't ask these questions. But the fact of the matter is, this is a video for entertainment purposes, so I hope that you enjoy it. Don't write your university doctorate on this information, or maybe mortgage your house based on what you think is the worth of something you own, because it might not be. But guys, I hope you enjoy this, and most of all, if you disagree with anything I have to say, then quite frankly,
It doesn't matter what you think!
I'm just kidding, you know I love you. Let's start the show. First up, we have the Garbage Pail Kids. Now, anyone who grew up in the 80s remembers these gross, disgusting little cards that we could collect. And even as a child, when I was buying them, I was like, do I even want these? These are horrible. But my goodness, have they retained and then gained in value, especially with the internet creating this amazing back market for them. Now, some of them, the rarer ones, go for serious money. You want a case in point? Well, how about Adam Bomb? No, not Brian Clark, the wrestler. The card Adam Bomb from Garbage Pail Kids has sold for between $3,000 and $4,000. That is a serious collection right there. Anyone who knows me knows that before even Marvel Comics, my biggest passion in life is pro wrestling. And of course, I forgot to include, forgot like I knew about it, I didn't know about, if on my previous list, the Greg the Hammer Valentine Rhythm and Blues prototype figure, which apparently is worth serious bank. So one sold on eBay not long ago, and it wasn't revealed exactly how much it went for, but the asking price was $30,000 because apparently the seller did not want to sell it. He just kind of had it there, but he didn't think anyone was going to pay that. Matt Cardona, who is a former WWE wrestler who is a toy obsessive as well, said that he recently bid about $13,000 for the figure and lost out. So it sold for between $13,000 and $30,000. So either way, no matter where on that spectrum you're looking at a lot of money. Next up, we have original Star Wars figures. Now, of course, this is no kind of huge revelation that original Star Wars figures are worth a lot of money. Really, Dave? Really? You don't say. But hear me out on this one, because it's some amazing, interesting kind of facts with this. There's a collector called Nigo, a Japanese gentleman who founded a company called The Bathing Ape. He decided to offload his collection in 2015, so he went through Sotheby's, which is like the premier auction house. At the end of that auction, his collection went for $500,000, and one item of them being the original pristine mint condition Luke Skywalker in-box action figure. And this isn't even like a special edition or one that was recalled or anything like that. Just a regular Luke Skywalker, but in mint condition, went for $25,000. And actually, ones in that kind of pristine condition, there's only about 20 in the world. So you can see why that is in very high demand. This next one is quite a departure from the action figure sort of genre that I'm used to, but it is Beanie Babies. And there is still a big market for some Beanie Babies. It was kind of a running joke a while ago that Beanie Babies were the ultimate thing that was sought after, like as being a collectible, and now isn't worth much, but there are some ones that are still worth some serious bank to the right buyer. In fact, there's one in particular I want to mention. That being the Peanut Royal Blue Elephant Beanie Baby. You see, due to a manufacturing error, only 2,000 of these Royal Blue Peanut Elephants were fabricated with a darker color than originally intended. Now, it's the most collectible Beanie Baby in existence and sells for as much as $5,000. Other Beanie Babies that are worth a lot of money are the Humphrey the Camel Beanie Baby, which is worth about $2,000. And there was also a 1997 Princess Diana Beanie Baby made, although I couldn't find any prices on that. Stepping further away from action figures, but of no less interest, we have Pez dispensers. Do we even make Pez dispensers anymore? Again, it was a staple for childhood when I was growing up. You got the little cartoon Pez dispenser, you get the powdery, unpleasant candy that comes out. The candies might not be worth much, but some of the original Pez dispensers really are. In fact, in 2006, a dispenser known as the Astronaut B, created for the 1982 World's Fair, made serious bank, selling on eBay for $32,000. Other collectible dispensers include the Mickey Mouse Soft Head Dispenser, the 1995 Santa Claus Head Dispenser, and the Pez Gun. Now you see why I labeled this list as collectibles as opposed to action figures, because we are going all over the shop with this one. So why not take it to board games, and in this case, Monopoly. Now this is going to blow your mind. An original hand-drawn oilcloth version of Monopoly made in 1933 and owned by the game's inventor, Charles Darrow, sold for a whopping $146,500 at Sotheby's auction house in 2011, nearly double its expected price. But even if you don't have such a rare version of this beloved game, vintage versions from the 1930s have also sold for about $3,000, and limited editions sell for hundreds on eBay. So make sure you hold on to that Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief Monopoly set. Hot Wheels, wheeling the way. It's amazing what advertisement slogans stick in my head, and that was one that just lodged in there. But yes, Hot Wheels. These things are seriously collectible. I know, what a revelation. Who knew? Lucky I clicked on your video, Dave. Hear me out. You see, while most of these palm-sized cars go for just a few dollars, rare finds can be worth thousands. Among the most valuable is the 1969 Volkswagen Beach Bomb prototype, designed with surfboards hanging out the back window and wheels that made it too large for Mattel's racetracks. Though it never went into wide production, that's what makes it all the more valuable to collectors, who value it at, get this, around $125,000. Now those, my friends, are some seriously hot wheels. All right, now this is the big one. This is the one that we all know about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is, of course, Action Comics #1. The most expensive comic ever sold on eBay, this pristine 1938 edition went up for auction in 2014 to staggering results. Why the frenzy? Well, of course, if you're watching this video, you know it's the comic that first introduced Superman to the world, and there are fewer than 50 in existence. So what was the final price this comic went for? $3.2 million. It's not bad. It's not bad. All right, we're circling back around to action figures now with Wonder Bread He-Man. This was a big, egregious miss on my previous list that a lot of folks mentioned, so clearly there's a lot of love and recognition for this figure. Why is it so rare? Because it wasn't available for general release. As the name implies, he was part of a mail-away offer with Wonder Bread. So you buy the Wonder Bread, you eat your sandwiches, and then you send off a little token to get Wonder Bread He-Man, or Wundar He-Man, as he was technically known, but come on. He's Wonder Bread He-Man. And this guy, because he wasn't widely available, will go for about $500 online. Now, it's not all about toys, action figures, and games. It's good to get some reading in there, and what more of a nostalgic kids classic could you have than Where the Wild Things Are? In 2012, a signed 1963 first edition of Maurice Sendak's classic children's book sold for $25,000. The condition of the book was especially remarkable because, as parents know all too well, picture books rarely survive without rips, smudges, or smears. So to find one in such pristine condition made it incredibly valuable. It's not all about the brawny superhero action figures. Of course, there are Barbies, and Barbie can be worth bank. Barbie's undergone several makeovers over the last few decades, but the classic hourglass-shaped 1959 version will always be the one and only that collectors are really hankering to get their hands on. Originals, complete with the zebra stripe swimsuit and a sweeping updo hairstyle, retail from around $8,000 to $23,000. This next one is a really fun one, I think, because it's kind of a new genre of collectibles. I say new, it's kind of been for a couple of decades, but when you look at comic books and action figures as being like the classics, the new kind of collectible that goes for a lot these days is video games, in particular Atari cartridges. In a classic case of truth being stranger than fiction, an urban legend that Atari had buried hundreds of its game cartridges in the New Mexico desert in 1983 turned out in fact to be true. In all, 881 recovered cartridges were sold, totaling $107,000 in proceeds. Individually, the more rare and popular games can go for hundreds of dollars on eBay. All right, now anyone who knows me knows that my favorite decade in the world is the 90s. That was when I grew up. Who wouldn't love the 90s? And what is more 90s than Furby? These furry interactive toys came on the scene in 1998. If you're holding on to an early version of an unopened box, you could expect to fetch around $900. Now, speaking of nostalgia, one Christmas that will always stand out in my mind is that of 1989 and watching my cousin open up his box to a Game Boy. And what was this witchcraft that I was witnessing for the first time? You see, before we just stared at our mobile phones, we whiled away the hours on Nintendo's handheld game system, which was first released in the US in 1989. These days, mint condition Game Boys go for hundreds, and if you have a special light-up edition like the Game Boy Light, it can go for over $1,000. Now, this is one that's definitely more of a modern take, and that is an original copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone actually, is what I'm gonna go with because I'm using American prices. But a 1998 pristine copy of a first edition Sorcerer's Stone book will go for between $6,000 and $7,000. And if you have one that's actually signed by J.K. Rowling, one of those recently went for $15,000. Although maybe it would go for less now depending on your opinion of J.K. Rowling. But either way, these books cost a lot of money. Going back to the video games now, and I will admit that this one is like a minefield of different potential possibilities and what's available and what's not and what versions we're talking about. But hear me out. Mario Kart on the N64. If it's the right version, an original release, unopened, mint in box, can go for about $400 to $500, if not more. Video game cartridges like this are always really tricky because it's a very, very specialist subject, and there are some that are more expensive because of the country they released in. For some reason, there's one on eBay from Korea, which is going for tens of thousands, and it's like, well, why is that one particularly so expensive? I don't know, I'm just a guy on YouTube. I can't be an expert in everything, guys. But I do know that in particular, one that keeps getting mentioned is Mario Kart on the N64. So if you've got the right copy from the right place, it's worth a lot of bank. That's probably the vaguest entry on this list. Now, this is kind of a blast from the past, as most of these are by proxy of being a nostalgia list, Dave. Jeez, what are you talking about? But anyway, Cabbage Patch dolls. Doll collectors adore Cabbage Patch Kids, first created by Xavier Roberts in 1978. Pat and Joe Prosey are the world's most obsessive Cabbage Patch doll collectors, having amassed over 5,000 dolls they house in a custom-built Maryland museum. You can actually buy the entire collection for a cool $360,000 if you wish to. Or if you're a more casual fan, there's also an official collectors club with an annual membership of $35. We're going to circle back around now to the Masters of the Universe because there are so many potential figures here that I could have included and that go up and down in price, one of which is the Eternia playset. Described by one eBay seller as the holy grail of Masters of the Universe toys, this battleground where your He-Man and Skeletor action figures might have fought one another now fetches for around $1,600. This next one I always find kind of funny because the toy came out at roughly the same time as the Child's Play movie did, and it's just a little bit too animatronic for my personal uncanny valley liking, and that is Teddy Ruxpin. This beloved animatronic bear reads kids' stories thanks to an audio cassette player built into his back. These days, bears in top-notch condition can be had for around $500. The original storytelling teddy bear from 1985, on the other hand, is a hefty $1,600. One of the greatest modern movies of all time, and come on, don't fight me on this one, guys, is Jurassic Park, of course. And even though the film wasn't famous for its toy line, it does have a very dedicated following. We all loved Steven Spielberg's 1993 film about a theme park gone wrong, and there's lots of merchandise to prove it. If you held on to the original 90s action figures and kept them in good condition, they can be worth thousands of dollars each these days. The T-Rex in particular is one of the most sought after, with one being listed on eBay for $2,800. Then again, it was just listed on eBay, so take that for what it's worth. This next one is a franchise that totally passed me by because I was all old and crotchety by the time it rose to popularity, and that is Pokemon. But oh my goodness, some of these cards are worth serious money. First published in Japan in 1996, Pokemon trading cards have a huge following, and rare cards can go for wildly high prices. A holographic misprint Mewtwo card is selling for $11,997, and other cards can fetch similarly expensive sums. Now we have just a fun little curiosity from the 60s, I do believe, but actually it was definitely a staple of my childhood too, and that is the Lite-Brite. First marketed in 1967, this toy allowed children to create glowing art by fitting small coloured plastic pegs into an illuminated board. Full sets from the 70s and 90s go for almost $300 today. And of course, it's inevitable that we would reach one of the greatest franchises of all times, especially for a child of the 80s, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Heroes in a Half Shell first made an appearance as comic book characters in 1984, and a wildly popular animated series soon followed in 1987. Pretty much every kid's birthday party we attended in the late 80s was Teenage Turtle themed, and plenty of action figures were gifted. In mint condition, these figures can go for about $400 to $900 each, with rarer pieces being offered for thousands. Harkening back now to a previous entry with the Barbie doll, we now also have Gem and the Holograms. Girls of the 80s all loved this cartoon rocker, and the prices these dolls currently fetch are truly outrageous indeed. Gem dolls can sell for upwards of $675, with accessories and related toys selling for similarly high prices. Now, as we all know, Lego, even brand new, is incredibly expensive. Restrictively expensive, quite frankly, because I would love to collect Lego, but I can't afford like $400 for a Death Star. Although, God, that would be so cool. But no, you collect legends, Dave. Don't get into Lego, you can't afford it. But even the old stuff is worth serious money. In particular, Lego trains. Take two things people are wildly passionate about: Lego plus trains, and it's no wonder that the vintage railroad sets from the beloved brand command top dollar. Sets ranging from steam cargo trains to diesel freight trains to high-speed city express trains all go for between $1,000 and $3,000. Moving on back to our collectible cards, we have Magic the Gathering. Now again, Magic the Gathering was not something that I really played myself, mainly because it was too complex and I have a short attention span and could never be bothered to learn. But if you were smart enough to be into the fantasy card game growing up, your collection could be worth a pretty penny today. Collections have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and rare individual cards like the Alpha Black Lotus have sold for as much as, get this, $87,000. Now that's magic. Okay, we had Luke Skywalker, we had the franchise player of Star Wars, but come on! As much as you might love the main characters, let's face it, it's Boba Fett that everyone wanted. No one would ever trade the Fett Man. And why? Because he's just cool. And some of you did point out that my egregious entry of the rocket-firing Boba Fett should be picked up on in the previous list, and you're correct. So instead, I'm just gonna list the regular Boba Fett because this guy still sells for huge money. Given the franchise's massive popularity, it's a safe bet that vintage Star Wars merchandise will command some of the highest prices in the galaxy. Bounty Hunter Boba Fett is among the most popular action figure from the films, with mint condition, original in-box versions being sold for as much as $32,000. As mentioned on the previous list, and even in the number one position, some of the most collectible action figures are G.I. Joe. Hasbro's G.I. Joe has been around since 1964 and remains a favorite for a large base of collectors. There's even an annual G.I. Joe convention. Vintage Joes and their accessories run a broad range price-wise, with enemy organization Cobra accessories being among the most popular. This missile command center alone is priced at $16,000, while some individual figures are set as high as $5,500. A prototype G.I. Joe toy soldier made in 1963 sold on eBay for $200,000 in 2003. Boy, this one is seriously taking me back now. We have Rainbow Bright. God, I remember that. Rainbow Bright, see the shining... Enough. Anyway, let me tell you about Rainbow Bright. As I just demonstrated, we all still remember the theme song from the animated TV series about Rainbow Bright and her sidekicks, the Color Kids, who are in charge of preserving all the color in the world. These days, original Rainbow Bright and Color Kids dolls can sell for around $1,000 each. Now that would brighten up anyone's day. Now, toys that I never considered even being on these kinds of lists that actually turns out are super collectible and popular are Happy Meal toys. McDonald's Happy Meals have come with toys since 1979, so it's no wonder there's a following of collectors that love these pint-sized playthings. On eBay, you'll find collections like this one of all Disney-themed characters priced at around $300, or this one full of Barbies priced at $135. Now, because I just love surprises, this is another one that you probably wouldn't have considered as being particularly collectible, but Super Soakers. In the 90s, the Super Soaker took water fights to the next level, and these vibrantly colored aqua guns are still in high demand. Models like this one from the 1990s started around $129 and can go for as much as $500. Turning our attention to the classic Marvel characters, we have the Fantastic Four Dragon Man. This is a figure that's big, chunky, and just kind of cool looking, but was not released in wide, huge numbers. It was on general release, but just not that many, and I guess at the time, not many folks were clamoring for a Dragon Man, but now that he hasn't been released again for years and years, this figure is worth as much as, get ready, $800. Not bad for a random action figure. We're going to get adult and horror themed with our action figures now, as we have the NECA cloth Pamela and Jason Voorhees. I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan, so I can see the appeal of these, but so many folks are after these fellas that they actually retail for about $470 now. Okay, this next one just makes perfect sense. Lego is expensive. Star Wars collectibles are expensive. Lego Star Wars collectibles? Oh, you're talking some serious money, especially the gold-plated C-3PO, who can go for about $600. I don't think that's literally plated in gold, but for that price, he might as well be. Thunder, Thundercats. Ho! Yes, the Thundercats. In particular, Driller and Stinger. Those two villains are worth some serious money. I don't know if they were released in short supply or if they just didn't make very many or they weren't very popular, but either way, they're pretty popular now, because if you just check some prices on eBay, they can range from a few hundred to a couple of $1,000 depending on their condition and packaging and whatnot. So clearly, for the Thundercat enthusiasts out there, these guys are the figures to get. Yo, Joe! G.I. Joe, always going to feature prominently on these lists, and one in particular a lot of people told me to mention was Pimp Daddy Destro. This is just such a fun looking figure. I'm so glad to include him just so I can say the name Pimp Daddy Destro. But I didn't know initially just how rare this figure was or how much it goes for. Doing the minimal online research, which is the only kind of online research I do, I've seen that this figure goes for about $1,500 to $2,000. That's some serious pimping. Now going back to good old Marvel, we have Captain Action's Spider-Man from 1966. This is one of those classic doll-type figures that is in high demand for those kinds of collectors who are into the real great kind of retro stuff, with a typical one in average kind of condition from what I've seen going for about $1,600. Now, action figures are great, but action figures with vehicles, that's taking it to another level. And Batman the Animated Series Robin with Dragster goes for some serious bank. How much you're asking? Well, one sold for approximately $500. I know that on this list of things that cost thousands, that's not crazy, but when you think about how much a toy like that would have cost in Toys R Us back in the 90s, selling for about $500, it's a pretty good return on investment. On the previous list, I mentioned the Ninja Turtles Technodrome, but how about for G.I. Joe, the Cobra Teradrome? Now this thing can go for some serious money as well. A loose one in average condition normally retails for about $250, but an in-box mint condition one will run for about $750. No wonder Cobra keep themselves so well financed. Lord of the Rings is always going to be a huge nostalgic favorite. And of course, the Peter Jackson movies are the most kind of famous modern interpretation of those. But there was an original animated movie that covered the first two books and that had a little bit of a toy line that went along with it. It wasn't that well remembered, but those who saw it, I remember it vividly. The animation was all done with rotoscope and it actually felt really creepy. It was Very cool, I recommend you check it out. But the figures, boy, there were 8 figures released, and a set on eBay of all 8 was listed, not bought, but listed for $20,000. And considering that individual figures have actually sold for about $2,000 to $3,000, it's actually not crazy to think that a whole set would go for about that much. I mentioned a few Transformers on the previous list, and a big omission on my part was, of course, Fortress Maximus. For a long time, the biggest Transformer that was ever available. It has been topped now, but especially if you think going back to the 80s when it was released, you didn't get kids' toys this big. This was crazy. And even today, going like in a box, looking good, great condition, this thing can be listed for about $2,000 on eBay, which is not bad. Warrior hovering assault launching envoy. I had to say that while I had it committed to memory because poof, it's gone now, but the killer whale from G.I. Joe. This assault hovercraft action vehicle is worth a lot of money. How much? Well, I'll tell you. You can normally find one for about $350, which again, compared to some of the things on this list, is not insane, but when you're looking at a pretty regularly released action figure vehicle, it's a pretty good bang for your buck. Alright guys, that does it for this list of some of the rarest and most expensive action figures, collectibles, card games, video games, books, you name it, from our childhood. I love putting these lists together, so if there's anything that I forgot, which I'm pretty sure it's a safe bet there is, then comment below, let me know, because I'm always looking for material for list number 3. But in the meantime, if you like this and you want to see more, then you can join the 6-1 Clicks by clicking the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you want to hear my opinions on other things not involving action figures, like comic books, wrestling, video games, movies, etc., you can go over to my sister channel, Displaying Miscellaneous Behaviour. Again, link in the description below. And finally, if you want to throw a few shekels my way, you can do by going to patreon.com/displaying model behavior. Whew. And with all that being said, folks, until next time, keep displaying model behavior.
Cheers.